新年快乐！对不起，我的家人，我的中文学不好。Why must tones be hard for me? So, while embarrassing myself and shaming my entire bloodline with that terrible Mandarin aside, Lunar New Year. Happy New Year, everybody. I thought I would make a video on a brief history of Lunar New Year and talk about the story of the Zodiac animals and why they are in the order that they're in. Chinese New Year, or Xinyuan, is the festival that celebrates the beginning of a new year on the traditional unisolar Chinese calendar. The first day of Chinese New Year begins on the new moon that appears between the 21st of January and the 20th of January. Before the New Year celebrations were even established, there was in fact the End of Harvest in Autumn Festival, not to be confused with the Mid-Autumn Festival, which is a different event. The Classic of Poetry was a poem written during the Western Zhou period, 1045 BC to 771 BC. Describing a celebration on the 10th month of the ancient solar calendar, which was autumn. This 10-month celebration is thought to be one of the originators of the Chinese New Year. The records of the first Chinese New Year celebration can be traced back to the Warring States period, 475 BC to 221 AD. In Qin state practice, there was an exorcism ritual to expel illness called the Big Now, and it was carried out on the last day of the year. Later, the Qin unified China and the Qin dynasty was founded, and therefore the ritual spread in popularity. It would later evolve into the practice of cleaning your house thoroughly in the days leading up to the Chinese New Year. It wouldn't be until the Han dynasty. Dynasty? Language is a social construct and therefore is subject to being subjective. Yes. This is the excuse that I will use for my poor pronunciation. Anyway, the Han Dynasty, 202 BC to 220 AD, was the first time in which the mention of celebrating the start of a new year was recorded. Eastern Han agronomist Cui Shi wrote in the book Shimen Yue Ling, "The starting day of the first month is Zhongri. I bring my wife and children to worship ancestors and commemorate my father." He later wrote, "Children, wife, grandchildren and great-grandchildren all serve pepper wine to their parents, make their toast, and wish their parents good health. It's a thriving view." Shou Sui, the New Year's Eve tradition of basically an all-night party, was started during the Jin dynasty, 266 to 420 AD. The Tang dynasty, 618 to 907 AD, began the tradition of sending Bai Nian Tai, which are the New Year's greeting cards. Legend has it that it was Emperor Taizong of Tang that actually started this custom. He wrote in a card, "The whole nation celebrate together on gold leaves," and sent them to his ministers. The tradition of giving children money began in the Song dynasty in 960 to 1279. So now we've gone over the very brief history of how Chinese New Year came to be. I've only picked out very specific things and highlights. I can't go into every single thing. Let's get into some mythology. According to Chinese legend, the entire Chinese New Year began with a mythical beast known as the Nian, a beast that lives under the sea or in mountains. The Nian would eat villagers, especially children, in the middle of the night. We notice that a lot with mythology, it's always eating the children. One year, the villagers are just sick of their children being kidnapped and eaten, and therefore they decide this year they're going to hide from the Nian. Before they did, however, an old man appeared to the villagers and told them, "You guys go away and hide, alright? I'll stay overnight. I've got this." And so the old man bid them on their way and started work. He hung up red papers and set off firecrackers. The villagers came back the following day and found their village had been as they had left it. It was fine, nothing had been destroyed. Some assumed that the old man was a deity who would come to save them. But they then understood that the old man had discovered that the Nian was afraid of the colour red and loud noises. And then the tradition grew. When the new year was approaching, the villagers would wear red clothes, hang red lanterns and red spring scrolls on windows and doors, and used firecrackers and drums to frighten away the Nian. From that day onward, the Nian never came back to hurt the villagers and their children. and was later on captured by a Taoist monk. So yeah, happy endings. Next, let's move on to the zodiac animals. As you know, with each Chinese New Year comes its associated animal, but why are they in the order that they're in? The Jade Emperor, Yu Huang, wanted to celebrate his birthday, which happened to fall on Chinese New Year. He decided to designate 12 signs of the zodiac. He told all the animals on Earth that whoever reached the gates of heaven fastest would be the first zodiac, and then whoever got there second would be next in the zodiac, and so on. All the animals had to cross a river to get to the gate. At this time, the cat and the rat were still good friends and set off together in an attempt to win the race. They found the ox already making good progress across the river, and after jumping on his back, asked him to take him across the river. The ox was extremely good-natured and allowed them to ride on his back. However, as they reached the opposite riverbank, the rat pushed the cat into the river and jumped on the ground, reaching the gate before the ox. The Jade Emperor congratulated the rat on arriving first and made the first zodiac the Year of the Rat. The Year of the Ox became the second zodiac. The third zodiac was the Year of the Tiger, who had struggled against a current to cross the river and pleased the Emperor greatly. Next came the Year of the Rabbit, who, being unable to swim, had hopped from log to stone in order to cross the river. The fifth zodiac was the Year of the Dragon, who flew down to the gate. The Emperor asked him why, since he had wings, was he fifth in the race. The kind dragon explained that he had needed to provide drinking water for other animals and had been creating rain. Next came the horse, but just as he was about to arrive at the gate, the crafty snake unravelled himself from the horse's leg and, scaring the horse, made his way to the gate, and the Emperor proclaimed the sixth zodiac, Year of the Snake, followed by the seventh zodiac, Year of the Horse. Across the river came a raft carrying the goat, monkey, and rooster. The Emperor was happy that the three animals had worked together and named the 8th, 9th, and 10th zodiacs Year of the Goat, Year of the Monkey, and Year of the Rooster, respectively. The 11th animal to arrive was the Year of the Dog. On his arrival, the Emperor asked why he was so late. The dog told him that since the water was so clean, he had taken a bath on his way. Finally, the boar arrived at the gate after having eaten and slept. The 12th zodiac became the Year of the Boar. Unfortunately, since the rat had pushed him into the river, the cat arrived last and was unable to become part of the calendar. From that day on, cats and rats have been mortal enemies. There are also elements associated with the Chinese zodiac: wood, fire, earth, water, and metal. They are based on the 5 elements theory, or Wu Xing. The theory is the basis of many practices in China, applied in medicine, martial arts, and feng shui. All elements are equally important. There's no hierarchy and they are all interconnected. All the elements belong to either yin or yang signs. When Chinese zodiac elements interact, they can form negative and positive connections between themselves. If 2 of the opposite signs, yin and yang, form a connection, change, whether positive or negative, is unavoidable. The cycle of elements is arranged in a special order and comes with defined chains of creation and destruction. The chain of creation is as follows. Water feeds the wood starts a fire, fire creates earth, earth holds metal, metal carries water. The destructive chain is water puts out fire, fire melts metal, metal cuts wood, wood separates the earth, and earth absorbs water. In Chinese astrology, each zodiac sign is connected with one of the Chinese zodiac elements, and this association is considered your lucky element. Wood is a lucky element of tigers and rabbits, fire is a lucky element of snakes and horses, earth is a lucky element for oxes, dragons, goats, and dogs, metal is a lucky element for monkeys and roosters, and water is a lucky element for pigs and rats. The Chinese zodiac animal of this year is the tiger, and the element is water, so if you're any of those things or even both, fortune may smile upon you. So what's your Chinese zodiac animal element? I am a fire rat. I'll see you guys soon in the next video. I hope this was a fun video just to, celebrate the Lunar New Year, and I hope if you are celebrating that you stay safe and you get to spend time with your family members, or at the very least get to hear from them, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!